Hello and welcome back to another Discord bot tutorial. Now, since the last time I recorded those first 3 videos, I have been very busy. I have deployed the bot that I made in the previous video via Glitch. So you can see here, and you can follow the link in the video's description to the code on Glitch. And the bot is running. If I head on over, I should change one thing. If I just type in choo, exclamation point, choo, choo, and I will talk about why I'm using exclamation point in the next video when I talk about handling multiple commands. But for now, let's just make sure it's working. There we go, I get my response back. And if I come back to here, let's look at the code. Something rather significant has changed. I know it's a really tiny font, so I'm going to zoom on in. Client.login. Look, the token is no longer there, right? Here's the code that I have in VS Code, in Visual Studio Code, with the token right there that I should not be showing you because that's private key that I must keep private. Returning back again to Glitch, it's there, process.env.token. What's going on? So environment variables are variables that can be configured on a particular server separate from your code. So your code can be released in public. For example, you can go to the link and see this code, but your environment variables are stored securely in a file, or it could be other ways around it, but a sort of convention is to store them in a file called .env. So if you follow this link, you won't see the contents of .env. You will, however, see the contents of .env sample, which you can look at to see these are the environment variables that I happen to be storing. And the really important one here, of course, is token. The way I'm using server ID and channel ID just to limit the bot to a particular server and channel is kind of an optional thing at this point, but the token is really, really critical. And just to show you what it looks like, I'll regenerate the token again to switch it out. If I go here to .env on Glitch, it's actually giving me an interface to show here's the token, here's its value. But if I click up here on plain text, I can see this is what it actually looks like. Token equals that very long string. So returning back to the code that I have locally in Visual Studio Code, and I will cover in a separate video how to deploy to Glitch. I definitely would encourage you. There's lots of different web servers and hosting platforms that you could use to deploy your bot, and I bet you could even run your own Raspberry Pi or your own computer, but that's not the topic of this video. I just want to look at getting an environment variable set up. So the first thing that I need to do is create a file. I'm going to make a new file, and I'm going to call it .env. And in that file, I want to say token equals. And maybe I want to be a little bit more specific. Let's call it bot token. And then I want to paste the value of the token there, setting that environment variable to that value. I can go back to the browser, go to my developer page. I might as well regenerate. Well, I'll regenerate it later. I'm just going to hit copy, paste it in here. You can see it's that same token. It's there. And then the idea is that I could say right here, instead of this, process.env bot token. Now, this won't actually work. Let's check and see why. So one thing actually I want to do is let me disable the bot on Glitch to make sure that it's not the one running, so that I can be sure when I'm testing that the one that's running is the one that's running here locally on my computer. It's kind of silly, but I'm just going to comment out all the code on Glitch. I'm sure there's another way to sort of disable the web application through the interface. And now let me say node bot.js to run this. Okay. It's telling me an invalid token was provided. If you're just working with Node like I am, just on a Mac laptop with a .env file, this process.env bot token is not going to just work magically. Servers like Glitch or Heroku or other kind of platforms are set up to use a .env file, but I've got to include special code to use that .env file. And the code that I want to use is called .env. So I want to require the node package .env. And then I can actually it's just one line of code, require the .env package and call the config function. That is the function you call to tell it to load the values from the .env file. But if I run this right now, it's going to say cannot find the module .env. That's because I have to say npm install .env, so I've got to do that as well. We can check package.json to see that now it is a new dependency in addition to discord.js. I also have .env as a dependency, and now it's running. Let's see what happens if I go back over to Discord and type in exclamation point choo choo. I'm getting some. Why am I always only getting choo choo back? There we go, I got some emojis. Great. So that's actually all I wanted to show you in this video. I could think about, are there other things that are sort of like custom settings that I don't want to package as part of my source code? And for example, it could be that the channel ID or the server ID are those. And so I would say practice, try to follow along and get .env working with your code. And in the next video, I want to look at multiple commands. But actually, right, I mean, certainly I could just have an if statement. That's what I'm going to start with. So in the next video, I'm just going to show you how I handle two commands. If the content of the message is choo-choo, reply with one of these replies. If the content of the message is exclamation point, I don't know, GIF something, then I want to reply with a GIF. So I'm going to show you how to post GIFs. And that way we have two commands with an if statement, and then the follow-up video to that, an if statement isn't going to be very sustainable if you want to have a bot that can handle 10, 20, 100 commands. How do I create a system, a structure for handling multiple commands and in different JavaScript files in a way that's sort of scalable and manageable? Okay, so stay tuned. In the next video, we're going to make our bot post, I don't know, kitten GIFs or coding train GIFs or who knows what.